Hello and welcome to Deliberately Creative. I'm Stephanie, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 39 of Doodlegems. In this episode, we're going to be doing Tanzanite, a beautiful purpley blue stone set in a very natural looking doodle setting. So come on and let's see how easy it's really going to be. So here we go. This Tanzanite is so pretty. I am kind of in love with it. If you can be in love with a stone. I love how it can change color depending on the direction that you're looking at it under light. And it can change color depending on the type of light that it's getting. So we're starting off here with a light cerulean blue. And I am going to give it a very, very simple faceted pattern. I'm going to give it a very simple faceting pattern, which is basically two rectangles that are turned slightly on angle to each other. And then from these points, there's basically a bit of a triangle going to the edge. Now, this would not necessarily be a true style of faceting, but it's similar enough that it will make your mind think that this is a faceted gem. And that's really all we want. And as I'm looking at this, I'm going, well, I need to tighten up these little triangles on the edge. And those extra little lines, no big deal. We can work with those. Those actually can give us places to put more variation in our color, in the pattern, to make it look a little more real. One of the neat things about stones and gems, when they have faceting going on, they do look different depending on the light. And Tanzanite really looks different. It can go from looking almost sapphire blue under fluorescent lights to looking violet underneath of incandescent light, and then it can look a totally different color underneath of natural daylight. Tanzanite is one of those stones that it just is so variable looking, and the neat thing about it being variable looking is that you can do pretty much anything you want within reason. Keep it in the blues and purple tones. I like the look of the softer blue type stones, but you can do it almost a deep sapphire blue. My recommendation, go online and look up Tanzanite and just see all the variations that are out there. You'll be totally amazed. All right, so I'm going to go and put in a couple of these triangles some of this light cerulean blue. And I am doing a light coating, a light covering of color. It's not imperative to have this so saturated with color at this point. Right now, what we're trying to do is just get a layer of color on the paper so that we'll have a place for colors to slide around. I am using those little tiny triangles in there because the back side of this gem would actually have faceting going on also. You're not going to see it through the center on this one because there's this whole top center here is going to be highlighted. It's going to be softened with white, like it has a dull reflection of light going on. Bright light will be shining off of some of these triangles going around. There we go. So that's enough of the cerulean blue to start off with. Then I am going to go in with the Parma Violet and put, not necessarily coloring those triangles so much, some of them will be, but some of this color is just going to sort of be in parts. You're not going to see the faceting so much on this stone. You're going to see mostly the play of color with a little bit of faceting, mostly just highlighted. It's kind of cool that way, actually. And this Parma Violet can go on heavier and lighter and leave some places that are not colored at all. If you look at that. Now, Tanzanite is one of December's birthstones. December is one of those months that sort of got the jackpot as far as birthstones go. So, Tanzanite is one of those. Turquoise is another one. I've done 2 different videos with turquoise. And then there's, oh gosh, there's 2 more, and I don't remember exactly which ones they are right at the moment. I will come back here in a minute with that information. Now I'm using the violet to give a bit more dark around the edges. A little bit more dark color around the edges and maybe coming up around a couple of these triangles, the facets. The neat thing about these colors is that they're all friendly colors. They're all cool. They all live on the same side of the color wheel. So you don't have to worry about them mixing together and not giving you a pretty color. These are all going to mix well together. If they got a comment on their report card, it would say plays well with others. How's that? Going to put a little bit of that there. And now, even though the center is going to get highlighted, I want to put a tiny bit, just a dusting of the violet in here. And I'm going to go back and grab that Parma Violet and put a dusting of that in this center section also. It's going to get white put in here, and maybe even a little bit more of that light cerulean blue again. I'm going to darken up a couple of those areas. Now that I know where I am, put a couple more spots of the Parma Violet in. And you notice I'm leaving those highlight edges, those light blue, the light cerulean blue. I'm coloring up to those edges where 2 colors come together that are different. I'm just coming up to those edges and not making them go away completely. That's going to help with the highlighting and the illusion that it really is faceted. I'm going to grab the violet blue. And I want to give a couple spots that are really dark. Just a couple that are really going dark. And that, again, adds to the illusion that this is a real faceted stone. This is very much like coloring in a coloring book. Once you have your pattern down, you can just decide where you're going to put colors. Doing things like this is really good for your brain, helping you to relax. Your choosing colors actually does help your brain relax a little bit. Even though some people find color to be stressful, I find it to be very relaxing. I tend to breathe more slowly. And I tend to breathe deeper when I'm coloring. And that's why you'll hear me sort of slow down. My talking gets softer. Because I'm getting more and more relaxed as I'm coloring. It's nice that way. It's really nice to be able to just do something quietly for yourself for a few minutes. Not worried about the rest of the world. Not worried about going and having to make dinner right now. Just taking some time for yourself. It's not a lot of time, and you're worth that time. Because by recharging your batteries, helping you to be calm and rested, you can help other people around you to be happy and calm. So now, you notice I'm just picking up the colors. They're all colors that we've been using. I went back to the Cerulean Blue, and I'm going in and strengthening a couple spots. Going over some of these areas. I'm getting ready to use my white, but I wanted to just throw a little bit more of this Cerulean Blue in. If you're enjoying this video, I hope you will click that like button. Subscribe to the channel so that you will be notified when new videos come up if you're interested. I only want you to subscribe if it's something that you're interested in doing. Don't do it just because I asked. Do it if you're going to come back and you want to see more. I'd love to have you come back and hang out. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and use that white and just polish off that center bit. It's amazing what that does. We're starting to get that look that we're going for of that faceted gem. We're going to start taking away some of those flecks of paper look and start getting our shine. That's looking really pretty though. Some of these spots that I know I left white on purpose, I'm taking that white in on. Some of these little junctions where the facets meet up to each other. some of these areas where two colors were joined up, coming against each other. We start building that shine up, but not all of it. I don't want it all to go milky or pastel. I want to maintain some of that brightness and the sharpness of color, but I do want this glow that happens also. So it's sort of a little dance. You go around the stone, find a spot that you want to deal with a little bit. I'm kind of going around this outside edge just to soften. I will be coming back with a dark color right over the top of that white. And now I'm going to take the colorless blender and I'm going in to my lightest areas first, and I'm softening them up. I'm blending it together to take care of that dark, or take care of those white flecks. Smooth them out. Just smoothing them out. And look for any place that's the lightest colors to smooth out those spaces. And then move on to my next color, which I think is going to be that Parma Violet space. Those violety spaces. Smooth those out. I love how this blender will take those colors that are right next to each other and sort of cream them together, especially if you put white down. I'm just bouncing around from spot to spot now. I'm enjoying how this is coming together. It's looking really pretty from my side. I hope you're experiencing that also. That you'll see how pretty and really how easy this is. Like I said, it really is like coloring in a coloring book once you've drawn that pattern down. And it wasn't hard, was it? It was really very easy with the two rectangles. Just twist it a little bit so the points stick out to make the faceting. There we go. We're almost done with the actual stone. And then we're going to do a pretty but simple doodle around it as a setting. Oh, look at that. Wow. That is pretty, isn't it? That's very pretty. I can see there's a couple spots that I want to take that colorless blender in. I really don't want any of the paper showing through. Now I am doing this on the Neenah cardstock. It's the 110-pound paper. It's my favorite surface to do these on. I don't know. Some people have a hard time working with colored pencil on paper that isn't real toothy. I don't like a lot of tooth when I'm doing these gems. It's just the way I work. I'm going to take that violet blue and just do a little bit of a darker edge. Just a bit of a darker edge. Not a ton, but just enough to show a little bit of definition around the edge. Remember, we did do that white around the edge a little bit also. And then take the colorless blender, smooth that in. There we go. This is just a lovely stone. Tanzanite is only found in one place in the entire world, and that's on Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. And it was named by the Tiffany Jewelry Company in New York City. I thought that was interesting, that a jeweler in New York City named the stone that's found all the way around the world in another country. All right, look at that. Okay, so we're going to get this doodle put in, and this doodle is sort of organic. It's a doodle that looks, it would be a beautiful brooch. And it looks kind of like it has leaves going around it. And I'm stopping right there because I just realized I didn't give it a bezel. And now a real stone would have a bezel that, not a real bezel, it would have a setting of prongs. So I think we're going to go ahead and give it a setting of prongs, but it's only going to have 4 prongs. It's going to have basically 1 at 9 3 and 1 at 6 and 12, 12 and 6. And you would not have only 4 on a real piece of jewelry, because, and you know why? Is because if you lose one of these prongs, you'll lose the whole stone. Because 3 points can't hold the stone in if you break off one of these prongs. Now, if you had 8, you could break a couple prongs off and you would never lose the stone. So why don't we go ahead and do that? We'll go ahead and give it 8. Just because I don't want anybody losing their stones. So I'm going to do it in between each of those ones that we did to start off with. There we go. That easy. So now we are going to finish putting this in. So I have this first leaf shape on the top. I'm going to do a second leaf shape on the bottom. And then we're going to have small ones, but they're not going to come out very far, but they're going to come part way, about halfway down on each side. They're going to overlap with those first leaves that we did. So then we're going to come over here, about halfway down, and over here, about halfway down. Just like that. Nothing hard, nothing hard. And now I'm going to come over here, about halfway down from the point where we've got our 3 and 9 o'clock. My 3 o'clock side, about halfway down towards 6. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to do a little swirl that's going to support that edge. And I'll do the same thing on the other side, about halfway down between the 6 and 9 o'clock. And do another swirl. Your swirls don't have to match up perfectly. We're doing this by hand. And then I'm going to put a little circle in the middle. Now, this time at the top, we are going to do between 9 and 12 o'clock, halfway between the 9 and 12, and we're going to do the same thing and do a swirl. And then halfway between 3 and 12, and do a swirl. Okay, they don't have to match. They don't have to be perfect. We're going to do another circle right up here at the top of that one. Like that. Okay, so these leaf shapes here, they're actually going to be filled in with, these two are going to be filled in by following that outline. We're going to follow the outline just a little bit in, and then follow it all the way down. Then we're going to step in and follow that outline up, but don't go all the way up to the point that you made before. Stop about the same distance away from it that you were making your line. And then the same thing here. And you just work your way up, and your little spaces here are going to get smaller and smaller, and they don't have to match. It leaves room for it to be more organic. Then I like to take a line that cuts through all of those points. Just like that. And if I decided that there's a little bit more space there than I wanted, I go back in and just throw an extra line in. It doesn't have to match up with the other side. You just want it to have the balance that makes you happy. There you go. Just like that. I'm going to flip it over because it's easier to pull lines or to get my hand around it here. Up. And then down. And again, we're doing this just a little bit in each time, making it get smaller and smaller towards the center. Going up and working your way down. And each time you draw that pattern, you're stepping in closer and closer towards the center. And then draw my line through all the points. Isn't that pretty? All of the lines from on the side petals are going to start from that outside middle point that's at the 3 or the 9 o'clock. And those, you're going to start at that point and draw a line all the way down, mimicking that outside shape till you get all the way to the center and you're straight down. Then you're going to go to the other side and you're going to do the same thing where you're mimicking that shape. I want another line on the outside of that. Mimicking that shape. And this is very much looking like leaves or onions. It's looking like things that are layered. They've gone layered over time. Could be the fancy inlay. Sorry, turning my paper around. Fancy inlay of wood, or, like I said, the layers of veins on a leaf. And the really cool thing here is that when we put a tiny bit of shading of color, it is going to just pop. And it's not going to take a lot. And then we'll be done, because we're getting so close to being done already. Look at that. We have our doodle drawn in. We have our gem drawn in. And I've just been having a really fun time doing this. I hope you have. We're going to do really quick with the Indigo Blue, a little bit of shading for this stone and the setting. So I'm going along the edge of the stone and then coming up into that leaf shape, sort of following a bit of that pattern, whatever pattern I had. We're going to do that on the other side also. And then coming in on the tip, just a tiny bit, or just a little bit, and then darkening it up just a bit also. Don't want quite so much of the light down here at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is grab that colorless blender to blend the color out, taking it up and down from the point. Look at that. And if a little color goes outside, no big deal. Remember, this is a doodle, and it's a relaxing time that we're having here. So I'm going to go ahead and do some of that down here at the bottom, or excuse me, at the top. I did rotate my paper. This would have been the bottom, but I rotated it, so I'm working towards the top again. Putting the color darkest right near the stone, and then feathering it out as it goes away from the stone, up that leaf shape, or that onion shape. And then some color out here at the tip. And then I will take that colorless blender, and I'm working it down, I'm working it up, and I'm leaving a space in the middle that's still white. That gives you a highlight. And look at that. Isn't that pretty? Then we're going to do the same thing out here on those outside petals, except that the color isn't coming from around the gem, it's coming from around the outside of those first petals that we did. And I'm going pretty dark right along the edge of those, and pretty dark up here in the tip. And then taking that colorless blender again. When you do a fairly dark application of a color, there's more pigment for your colorless blender to move around. Okay, and one more. And we're just about done. Just about done. So if you like this video, share with your friends. Make sure to click that like button if you did like it. It will help YouTube know that people are enjoying the video, and they will recommend it to more people, which then makes it easier for the other people to find the video, because the more people that get to see it, the more people get to. It's really kind of funny that way. Subscribe if you're not already so that you can find out when more videos go up, if you're interested. Again, don't click subscribe just because I've asked, but click subscribe because you want to come back and see more. And I'm just going to do a very quick application of this indigo blue and a touch of, let's see, a touch of white on those outside gems. And I might even put a little bit of white on some of those highlighted spaces just to emphasize. Look at that. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching. I'd like to thank you for subscribing if that's what you did. So I chose a couple of these spots that are really light, or that I want to be light, and I am going in and highlighting the triangle of a couple of these areas. This one right here, next to that lightest blue. And then I'm going to choose one of these spots in here. If you look, it's rather random. It's just the way the light hits and bounces around. It's very interesting how light does that. And now there's a couple spots where I want just little tiny bits. Just a couple little tiny bits. I don't like that one so much. Like that. And then I am actually going to highlight these points on the setting. Those areas that I left bright white, I want to make sure are really bright white. Let's see, let's look at that. So now, when I rotate this around, when I rotate this around, that's actually pretty cool, isn't it? Let's get that other card out of the way. There we go. So, I appreciate you hanging out, and as always, I appreciate you coming back to see what I'm doing. I need you to go out, do something creative today, Take care of yourself so you can take care of others around you. Bye-bye.